one more question based on same concept. A particle of mass m carrying a charge is moving around a fixed charge along a circular path of radius r. Find time period of revolution of that particular charge. A particle of mass m carrying a charge. Let me take this charge as q, is moving around a fixed charge along a circular path of r. Find time period of revolution of that particular charge. So let me take, there is one charge over here and there is another charge over here. Say this charge is q and this charge is q. Now one charge has mass m. Now let me take, this charge has mass m. It is moving around a fixed charge. This is moving in the circular path around this particular fixed charge. In the circular path and radius is r. You should now find out time period of revolution of that particular charge. So in this case also, you can simply write electrostatic force will be balanced with mv square divided by r, or you can even write it as m r omega square. Electrostatic force can be written as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q square divided by r square, which is equal to m r omega square. Now from here, omega is equal to 2 pi divided by capital T. I can substitute that over here. It is k q square divided by r square. This is equal to m into r. Omega is equal to 4 pi square divided by t square. You should now find out time period of revolution. Bring this time period to the other side. So time period t square is equal to m r cube 4 pi square divided by a into q square. And this is equal to 4 pi square divided by mass of the particle. You can take it as constant, it does not change. K is also proportionality constant, that also does not change. And q square, q is charge of the particle, that is also constant. And remained is only rq. This total parameter, if you take it as constant, I can simply write t square proportional to rq. So time period t is proportional to r power t by 2. This is the equation for time period of the charged particle which is revolving in the circular path. This problem is similar to the problem which we have learned previously. You have two charges, two identical small charged spheres, each having a mass m, hang in equilibrium as shown in the figure. Now this is the figure where two masses are being hanged over here. The length of each string is, let me take it as small l. Here typing mistake. The angle made by any string with vertical is theta. It is given in the figure. This angle is theta. Find the magnitude of charge on each sphere. You are now supposed to find out magnitude of the charge on each sphere. It is given mass m. This is also given mass m. I should now find out what is the charge acting on each sphere. Now, as these two charges are being separated by certain distance and their masses are equal, let me take charge on each sphere as uniform. Both are identical, right? Both are identical. Therefore, I will be considering that charge on each sphere E Q. I am considering that charge on each sphere is Q. Now from free body diagram, you can take this mass, and there will be outward force acting over here, that is electrostatic force, because both are charged particles, and there will be gravitational force which is acting in downward direction, that is W, and there is tension T acting over here along this particular string. So there are three forces acting on the mass: gravitational force, electrostatic force, and tension in the string. Now, electrostatic force and gravitational force, they are in line with x and y axis. Only tension is in the plane. You need to resolve this tension into components. I can resolve this tension into components if I take this as theta. Now see, this tension can be resolved into components. If this angle becomes theta, then obviously this also will be theta. Right? So this is E cos theta, and this is E sin theta. Right? T cos theta and T sin theta are the components of tension acting along electrostatic force and weight. So you can use, as the total system is in equilibrium, you can write net force along x-axis should be equal to 0. Similarly, net force along y-axis should also be equal to 0, because the total system is in equilibrium. So balancing that, you can write T sin theta is equal to electrostatic force, it is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q square, because I am taking these two charges are identical, so I am denoting it with q, divided by separation between these two charges, it is given as x, therefore I take it as x square. Now T cos theta is equal to gravitational force mg. Now if I take ratio of these two, I can cancel this tension. Sin theta by cos theta will be equal to tan theta. This is equal to q square divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into x square divided by mg, but will be here. Now I want to find out magnitude of the charge, so I will be making q as the subject. Q will be equal to 4 pi epsilon naught x square mg under root into tan theta. 4 pi epsilon naught, this is constant value. X is separation between two charges, that is already known to you. You can measure it by using scale. M is mass of the charged particle, that is also known. T is acceleration due to gravity, its value is 9.8. Theta value, you can calculate it, and theta value you can even take like this. And theta is equal to, from figure you can write, and theta is equal to opposite side divided by adjacent side. Opposite side it is x divided by 2 divided by adjacent side. This will be under root L square minus x by 2 whole square. You can take it as under root L square minus x by 2 whole square. And theta value also can be calculated from this figure. So this gives you finally charge on that particular identical sphere. So listen carefully. This is one of the important problem where we will be using extended charge concept. As we know that charge can be resided on a conductor, and here is over length. This is distributed over along length. In the problem it is mentioned a point charge Q is situated at distance R from one end of a thin conducting rod of length L having a charge capital Q. And this total rod has charge capital Q. It is uniformly distributed along its length. Along its length, this total charge capital Q is distributed. Find the magnitude of electric force between the two charges. Now you have a small charge Q over here. Both are separated by distance. See, this is having charge capital Q. This point charge has charge small q. So this length, it is extended charge, right? Distribution. You cannot directly use Coulomb's law in this case because the total charge is resided on the surface. The total charge which is present over here, it is distributed uniformly. The total charge capital Q, it is distributed uniformly on this charge. Right? Total charge is distributed uniformly over here. Therefore, you cannot use Coulomb's law directly, and we have learned that even in limitations of Coulomb's law also. For extended charges, Coulomb's law would not be applied directly. Now, for that, what I do, I'll take very small element of this total rod. Right? I'll cut this rod into as many small parts, and each part length I can take it as dx. Total length is L. Each part length I am considering it as dx. So we know that lambda, it is linear charge density, it is capital Q divided by L. For this rod, this is for rod. As it is extended charge distribution, lambda can be written as capital Q divided by L. Now I am taking very small element over here. That element, this element, it has length dx. Total charge on the rod is capital Q. Now as this total charge is distributed along these small elements, there will be some charge, say dq on this surface, and this is separated with the charge q by some distance x. Right? I am taking this part and this part, and both are separated by distance x. This element and this charge, point charge q, both are separated by distance x. Now this is a point charge, right? This is a point charge, and of course this is also point charge. These two are point charges now. Therefore, you can use Coulomb's law. I will be using Coulomb's law as EF. For the whole charge, it is capital Q, you will be getting F. But here you are taking only very small element dq. Because of that element, the force acting on this charge Q will be dF, which is written as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught dq into q divided by x square. dF is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Charge on this element is dq. Charge on this point is q. Both are separated by distance x. Now let me take this as equation number 1. Okay. Now we know that total linear charge density is lambda. Lambda is equal to capital Q divided by capital L. Linear charge density for the whole rod is capital Q by L. Then what about charge density for very small element? For the element, lambda will be equal to dq, because charge on this element is dq divided by charge on this length of this element is dx. Right? I can equate these two so that you will be getting capital Q divided by L, which is equal to dq divided by dx. From here, you can write dq is equal to capital Q divided by capital L into dx. This is equation number 2. So we have now got value of dq, that is capital Q by L into dx. Taking this dq value and substituting in equation 1 using 2 in 1, you can write this as df is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into q capital Q dx divided by L into x square. Right? Now this is df, very small force acting on small q charge. Like this is the force between very small element and point charge. But you want to find out electric force between rod and the point charge. Therefore, I will be integrating this total. If you integrate this total, I mean, you will be taking very small element here, you will be getting df1. And very small element here, because of that you will be getting df2, df3, df4, df5, df6, df7, like that. You will be calculating all those df values and finally you will add them. Adding is nothing but integrating. Summing up those all forces, you will be getting integration of df. Suppose if you are taking very small element over here, then the separation between these two, it is right. Therefore, for the first element, length is a small r, and for the last element which is present over here, what is the total length between these two? It is capital L plus small r. Therefore, when you are integrating, the limits of integration should be between r and L plus r, right? So it should be r and L plus r. I'll explain that in this slide. Now see, you have got finally f is equal to integration df, which are between the limits r and r plus capital L. This is equal to, in the previous slide we have got df, and that will be 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught capital Q small q divided by capital L integration dx divided by x square, and these limits are from r to r plus L. You can check it up. 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught capital Q small q divided by L dx by x square. This total part I am integrating. Now this is dx divided by x square. You can simply write this integration. You can evaluate this integration. Capital Q small q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into L, and this is x power minus 2 plus 1 divided by minus 2 plus 1. Limits are from r to r plus capital L. So this is f is equal to minus capital Q small q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught L into, it is x power minus 1, that is 1 by x limits are from R to R plus capital L. Right? Now, finally, F will be minus capital Q small q by 4 pi epsilon naught L. Substituting the limits over here, 1 divided by R plus capital L minus 1 divided by small r. This gives you F is equal to minus capital Q small q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught L into R minus of R minus L divided by R into R plus L. Plus R minus R gets cancelled. Minus L will be left over there. Minus of minus will become positive. This is F is equal to capital Q small q capital L divided by 4 pi epsilon naught L into R plus L. This L and L also gets cancelled. So finally you can write electrostatic force is positive. Positive mean that it is repulsive force. Capital Q small q divided by 4 pi epsilon naught R into R plus L. This is the final expression for electrostatic force acting between rod and a point charge Q.